Hey there, everyone.
Hi, guys.
Welcome to the Tall and the Short of It with
Betsy
and Jenny. Hey, we haven't got to say that in quite a while, have
No,
we?
we
Since we've
haven't.
been not together. So, funny story. Remember how last week when we did FBAs that I couldn't bring Betsy in, and so I had to do it by myself, and then it was like crazy with technical difficulties. Well, we found out Facebook doesn't even allow you to bring other people into your videos anymore. Yeah, we didn't know that. So guess what? We're going to have to be together from now on while we do our lives, which, logistically we'll figure out.
Yeah.
Yes. So anyway, jumping right in. Today we are talking about behavior plans at elementary level. Next week will be secondary. So those of you with secondary, just hold on. We'll get you. But a lot of the things we're going to talk about today also apply to secondary. So it won't be bad for anyone to be listening. So go ahead and comment if you jump on with us so we know who you are. And I know I can see somebody's watching, but I don't know who.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just jump right in. So Betsy, you want to talk about the purpose of a behavior plan?
Well, it really just provides consistency for the entire team, so that everyone is understanding that the behaviors that we're addressing are a part of the child's disability, and then it also so that everyone responds to the behavior in the same way. Because when everyone responds differently, it is very reinforcing because it becomes, I'm mentioning words that I probably, but like intermittent
Yes.
reinforcement is the most reinforcing
Right.
for that child. So you're just increasing that behavior. So when everyone's on the same team,
It's kind of like
when everyone's
kind
on
of
the
like
same
when
page.
mom and dad handle behaviors differently, then the kid knows who
Yeah.
to do what around.
Yes.
Right.
So it just provides that consistency, and it actually defines that behavior, tells everyone what behavior it is you're actually addressing. So it just kind of lays everything out, and
In a
so-
way, we all know what's going on, right?
well, and it also lets the child know, like, look, here's the plan. Here's everyone that knows about it, and like it shows solidarity, or it shows, like, here we're all in this together.
same
We're all
page,
working
yeah.
together. So
For sure.
all right.
So when you got the information from the functional behavioral assessment that we talked about last week, where we now know what the child's behaviors of concern are, we know why they do them, and we've got some recommendations about what to do about it. Now we need to decide, because a behavior plan shouldn't include like 100 behaviors, especially even if a kid has 10 behaviors that we want to work on. You can't put all of those in the behavior plan, because you have to target the behavior that is disrupting the environment the most. So if there's one specific behavior that's preventing that child or the other kids from learning the most, you want to target that one behavior until you can teach them another behavior. All right. Oh, good. We're not frozen.
Well, as far as you know,
I hope. Please, no.
I'll hop on and look.
Okay, good. But no, Betsy warned me, did you put on your do not disturb? And I said, no, I didn't. And that's why it just froze. Sorry, someone tried to call. I knew I jinxed it.
Oh, no, we're not. Cause
We're
I
not
heard this
frozen.
one- Yeah.
Woo! Yay. Okay.
Oh, look, Betsy's watching.
It makes us feel good to see that little number up in the corner, right?
But other people have jumped on, and it hasn't said who they are.
I know it
But it
hasn't.
just did for us. Okay. Anyways.
Maybe they weren't friends. I don't
Oh.
know. Maybe that's why it does
I
that.
don't know.
I don't know.
All right. Sorry. Betsy has a Thanksmas at 1 she has to get to. So
Thanksmas.
A Thanksmas or a Christgiving. I don't know.
Okay.
So,
all right.
That's why I was like,
we're going to keep moving.
We're going to keep moving. Yep.
All right. So, Betsy, when you were, you are working in a resource room. When you work in a resource room with kids and you have kids out in general education, how do you go about starting to plan their behavior, how to make their behavior plan?
I always like to start with, I mean, this is of course after FBA and all of this, and we've targeted the behavior. I like to start with the classroom teacher's actual plan, what they already use, whether it be Class Dojo, whether it be, a dreaded clip system, just different things like that. I've been seeing a lot of colors, like color, they get to change their color stuff. I start there, and then I try to, because the teacher's already doing that for every student, and it's so hard. So much is going on in the classroom. I need to make this plan something that the teacher is going to be able to do, because I can't come in the classroom every time that behavior occurs to do this plan. Right. So I make it, and I mean, I'm going to have to tweak things a little bit. Like, I love Dojo because the teacher often can go in and actually put that behavior, that specific behavior, in their Dojo system. And so, number one, it collects data so easily for me. And then two, the child is seeing it visually, and, but we can go ahead and work it in that way. Right. Like I said.
And for those of you that don't know, Class Dojo is an app that tracks behaviors in the classroom.
Yes. And it's
positive and negative.
And it's paired, like parents get to see it and stuff. And so I just love it as a data collecting tool. But that's where I start. Does it always work that way? No. But typically, if we can't find a way for it to work, then the teacher is usually on board, because like I said, I like to sit down and say, okay, let me see what you're doing. Let me see your classroom management plan. And I will go from there and make little tweaks so that it is, and I don't want my student to stand out in that classroom.
If they have a completely different system than the other kids.
Yeah, it's
hard to manage.
Yeah. So that's where I like to start with that.
Right. And then, of course, the goal then would be to phase out whatever those supports are that we put in place as part of the behavior plan, so that they go back to being able to use the typical classroom behavior plan once they've learned not to do that.
And when you're already so close to it, it makes it so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we definitely don't want to jump to a highly restrictive plan first. No. When a kid doesn't need that. If they are great with positive praise, that's what we want to stick with, and not, a ton of different tangible rewards.
Yeah.
So, all right, moving on. So, a lot of people forget that positive, the preventative strategies are actually much more important in a behavior plan than what do I do if they do the behavior. Right. But you do need both. So you got to have both pieces.
Because the behavior is going to happen.
It's going to happen because it's, again,
and
part
it's
of
actually
their disability.
Probably going to happen more when this plan is first put in place.
Exactly.
You're going to say, well, this isn't working at all. Give it a minute.
Give it a minute. And you have to, behavior.
And by a minute, I mean a couple weeks.
Exactly. Definitely don't trash a behavior plan after 3 days. That you didn't give it enough time to work.
No.
So the positive supports that you put in place are much more important, because they keep they are things you intentionally do as the teacher. They're behaviors you do to be sure that you catch the child before they get too frustrated and that behavior occurs, or before they get angry and that behavior occurs.
Yeah.
Or before they put themselves in a position to do the behavior. So, like pre-correction, setting expectations. This child always does this in the hallway, so let's set some expectations about what you want to see in the hallway, and praise him as you go through the hallway about how great a job he's doing. That is going to be huge. So, just remembering to those little things. And it might even be that as long as you have good proximity to the kid, they don't do the behavior. Like I said, least restrictive thing that you can do. Rewarding the behavior you want to see. You always want to, it's much more powerful to reward the positive than to punish the negative.
Yes.
Allowing breaks or sensory when you know that child's going to need them. Schedule those in. You're like, hey, every day after specials, he is so wound up and he can't sit still and he, whatever. Then schedule a break for him right then. Have him go, go through, do some heavy work down in the sensory room or something before he comes back. visual schedules so that they know what's coming up or changes that are going to happen. Verbal reminders. Tell them how you use Alexa. I love this.
Well, sorry, I was trying to think because not all my verbal reminders were necessarily for behavior plans. But I would use Alexa, one, when I was potty training, which isn't necessarily a behavior plan, but I am trying to change a behavior. Trying to change a behavior. So I would set reminders in the Alexa every day at certain times. And so it would, and you could put the child's name when you type it in. Alexa says the child's name. So it says, this is a reminder, Jenny, go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
But then also I like to use it as reminders, like when I've given a direction, like you have this much time left to, like, say the child's behavior is we're getting ready to clean up from playtime, and that child, that is like
a trigger
or meltdown. Oftentimes if you set a timer, or like I'd say, okay guys, you have 5 more minutes, and then I'd say, Alexa, set a 5-minute timer. They would hear me say that. And then Alexa is telling them when time is up. It plays a certain tune. And that was really helpful. When I did that, I don't know that I ever had
kids melt down.
Yeah. Or if they were doing something that they didn't like doing, I say, guys, you're doing great. You have 3 more minutes. And I tell Alexa to set that timer. Other things, I'm really bad just in general about remembering, like if I've said, hey, we're going to do this, like as our reward, I'm not great at remembering that. I would set a timer, and so the kids would know.
Alexa will tell us.
Alexa will tell her because she can't remember.
Because Alexa is very consistent.
Yes. So, but there are ways, like, so you can verbally tell Alexa to like set that time, or you can actually go into the app, and I set like at 8:00, there's going to be a restroom break at, or at 8:00, we're checking the behavior chart. Maybe they have, we have to check in so often, like they have half-hour increments, and, have you gone this whole half hour without that behavior or something? I don't know. I'm just,
and if you don't have an Alexa, like I said, we're not doing a commercial for Alexa right now, but I mean, we're not being paid. But there's the little alarms you can set on your watch where the watch would vibrate.
When you set Alexa, if you have an Apple Watch, it's great because, like, if I wasn't in the room, it still comes through my watch, so I knew it was happening. That was something else. So if I'm not in the room, it reminds whoever. I mean, I didn't leave my kids alone; they were with a para or what, and it would remind them. So again, going back to that consistency. So, but I also knew it was happening because, like, I don't have to go back in the room and be like, did so and so go to the bathroom? Yeah, I know they did because my watch told me. Alexa reminded them. So I use those all the time. So
love that. But checking in after instruction, something very simple I used to do as a teacher all the time with my students with IEPs in my general ed classes was, as soon as I was done teaching and I let the kids go to do their work, I knew there were about 4 kids I needed to just do a quick check-in with to be sure that they didn't need me to give them another example, or they knew how to get started, or, did you have a question about what happened that you didn't want to ask in front of the class? Those little things show kids that you care. And then they don't feel uncomfortable coming to you if they do need help. So that's a big one. Teaching replacement behaviors. If you can teach a behavior that's incompatible with the one that they're doing, like if they're, if they're constantly, putting their hands on other kids in the hallway, and you teach them and reward them for keeping their hands in their pockets in the hallway, back jean pockets or whatever you do,
or
then
behind their back.
They can't be touching other kids if you're rewarding them for doing that behavior. It's incompatible. So that's a fun one. Fidgets, giving them something quiet to fidget with in class sometimes will prevent behavior. Wiggle seats, they're little cushions they can wiggle around their bed on and it doesn't make noise. The little bands or Velcro you can put on desks for sensory. Use of a special interest as a reward, saying, hey, your math worksheet today, and you put the little cartoon character they love on it or whatever. Those are incorporating their special interest into things keep them engaged so that they're not doing those behaviors.
Right.
And then, of course, there's the reactionary stuff because the behavior is going to happen, like Betsy said. So you want to talk about some of those?
Ignoring is one, which depending on the behavior.
So good at it. Oh my God. I don't know how she did that.
Jenny is not always so good at
So
that.
good at it.
And I mean that in the sense when she comes in my room and the child's doing it.
I'm not good at it with elementary.
Leave them alone. Redirecting their behavior. Reminding them, hey, wait, remember, this is what we're working on. Oh, yeah, that's what it was. Distracting them. Get time out. I mean, I used it. Now, granted, it wasn't like, oh, you're going for a 20-minute timeout. It was typically like 3-4 minutes, but still. Losing privileges or losing that reward, reminding them, like, hey, this is what we're working towards. Or, if I'm not seeing this, you're going to, or if you keep doing that, you're not going to get that iPad time or whatever. And then contacting parents is always good. I mean, and I talk about this all the time, that communication, and that's why I like that dojo piece, but because that's just instant communication with the parents. But, and I think sometimes, depending on the child, including them in that contact, both positive and negative, definitely positive. But I mean, they also need to be a part of, saying, I'm struggling with this behavior today.
Yeah.
Just,
Nothing makes a parent more mad, too, than if something big happens at school and the school doesn't tell them. I mean, we just need to remember that parents want to know. And even if the school doesn't want them to do anything about it, they still need to know.
And I was always I always tried to say that. I'm just calling to let you know. We've handled it here. I'm not saying this because I am wanting more consequences at home. I just want you to have a conversation. And I'm not trying.
I don't say that's the number one complaint I hear in case conferences is that I heard about my kid got in trouble, but they didn't call me when it happened. I didn't hear about it until a couple weeks later, or when something else had happened or whatever.
But I always also tried, like I said, I would try to say, like, I'm not calling because I expect you to take action at home.
Right.
Because
now we appreciate those parents who do take away privilege at home.
But also sometimes it's after the fact and the kids.
Yeah, exactly. If
good.
It's not going to make an impact, we don't want that.
So that's something I always try really hard to communicate, because it's like I'm not, and maybe that's something to be a part of the plan, saying that this, because once it's part of that plan, say when this happens, this is how parents would like to be contacted.
We had a kiddo once who she did not like to write her homework on her own at home. But she would write all day at school. She would write all by herself in class all day at school. But then she would get home and she would fight with her mom about not wanting to write her homework. So we came up with a plan for the home and school to work together, where it was fine if mom wrote her homework for her at home, but then she would not get her morning reward when she came to school, and she would have to orally explain all the homework to her teacher, which was another extra step, right? But if she wrote it at home, then she would get an extra classroom reward dollar or whatever, and she wouldn't have to orally explain it to the teacher because it was already in her writing. Oh my gosh, that alone right there was huge, because she knew, oh, well, if I don't write it, then I'm not going to get my reward in the morning. I'm going to have to sit there for 5 minutes and explain my homework to the teacher. And it was huge for her, and she stopped fighting with mom about writing. So just a really clever way, I thought, for us to come up with to reward the behavior we wanted to see.
Right. Like Jenny said, next week we're going to talk about secondary. So, but this, since we're at the elementary and how they might look a little different, is there's a lot of visuals involved with the elementary behavior plans. This probably would have been you. Sorry,
No, you're fine.
I'm barely going to make it on time now.
Oh
no. Sticker charts, like token economies. Typically, they're more teacher driven. We're kind of the ones monitoring more of that, and making sure it's age appropriate. Like maybe younger elementary, we might, if a lot of our kids tend to love Thomas the Train, and that's okay. But then as they get older, maybe upper elementary, we might try to change that to just a train.
Yeah,
an actual
a real picture of a train. Yeah.
And so to make it more age appropriate.
Exactly.
So,
Well, and behavior plans need to change as the child changes. So as they get more mature, as they start realizing and changing their own behavior, they'll need fewer supports. You might be able to phase out some of the pieces, and then also offer some different rewards as they progress. But we just wanted to make a quick note while we wrap up about working with students with emotional disabilities and their behavior plans. Now, we're not talking about kids with true emotional disabilities that are like the ones who are very internalizing, and the ones that are they're not a product of trauma as well. Is that a good way to explain it? Because a lot of times we have two different kinds of kids with emotional disabilities. The ones that respond very well to behavior plans, and the ones who drive us crazy because we're having to change the behavior plan constantly. And a lot of that is because they've been through so much trauma, they're more socially maladjusted than they are truly emotionally disabled. But they both end up fitting under the category because they can't maintain appropriate relationships.
Right. But and that's something that it would be nice for us to look at sometime, the difference there. And really the behavior is driven by different things. So
yes,
the
completely
purpose is different.
So we probably do need to do a month on emotional disabilities and really flesh that out a little bit. But those ones that are really hard to work with behavior plans, you're going to see 4 things. They're going to try to find a loophole in every plan. And they can, because they're smart. Like, most of those kids are highly intelligent, but lack social skills.
And they have what you call street smarts.
Yes.
Or what you think of as street smarts.
Street
and
smarts.
Loopholes are helpful on the street.
Yes, they are. Go ahead and do some of these.
Well, and they're going, like I said, they're going to find that loophole. They need a variety of reinforcers or rewards. Like we talked about changing it up, but with them, you're going to need to change it up like almost daily, and maybe even like each reward. So there's different ways to do that. They can choose the reward they're working towards out of like a select, like ones you guys have selected together, or like meaning they know what they're choosing, or you can put like a bunch of rewards, and they have to be rewards you're able to give at any given time.
Right. And you may also have to have a menu of consequences that they don't know which one is going to happen.
Well, that's what it is. And so they don't know what they're going to get. You just put them on a stick and put them in a jar, and
because these are the kids who ask you what's going to happen if I don't, and they're going to weigh whether or not they feel it's worth it.
Their behavior may be more reinforcing, maybe more rewarding than what you're able to, that Starburst or that Skittle you were going to give them, or that sticker. They're like,
I don't care.
I don't care. I want to continue doing this.
Exactly.
Because they need to feel
and like
control.
I said, so you're going to be frustrated from time to time as a special ed teacher when you have kids like this, because some days the plan's just not going to work. And it's going to be a rough day. And that's the reality of emotional disabilities.
And allowing choices so they can feel in control. And that's, but at the same time, like I said, when you put those all in the jar, it's not you making the choice. You're not saying this is what you get. They are, I mean, even though you may have both come up with the ideas that go in the jar, it's still, they're making that choice by drawing it out. Right. So again, it's giving them some of that control.
Yeah. Consequence jar can be really powerful with those type of kids, because they can't weigh whether or not they should do the behavior or not, because they don't know what consequence they're going to draw.
Or what reward. Okay, is it worth doing what I'm supposed to, because this reward might really be.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
All right, well, that wraps it up for this week on behavior plans for elementary level. We're going to dig deeply into secondary next week, and then we're going to give you a week off for the holidays. So join us next week on the tall and the short of it. We will see you next time, all right?
Bye, guys.
Bye.